What's up guys, Will DTV here today, and today I'm going to be doing a video on the items tier list in competitive Pokemon. Now before you all start complaining in the comments saying, "Oh, I hate tier list videos, they're so unoriginal and everybody makes them cause they're easy." I actually made this tier list myself. If you look, let's see, where's the name? Oh, it doesn't say my name. Yeah, but I actually made this tier list myself. No one else has done one on YouTube. And I'd like to be the first before someone else swoops in and makes a competitive video on all the items, because I want that YouTube clout and I want to be the first one to make it. So, this is my tier list, obviously, as you can see. I'm going to explain everything as I go, but starting with SS rank, we're going to have Z Crystals. And before I get into this tier list, before I even start on Z Crystals, I want to say something. This is my opinion. Now, my opinion is pretty based on fact and experience because I've been playing Pokemon a long time. I've been playing it competitively since Generation 5, and I know a decent amount about the game. I know what almost all of these items do, but I might have to look up some of them as we go because I've probably forgotten, because a lot of the items at the bottom of the list are really bad and really forgettable. And yeah, I've already made this video like 3 times before, but I've forgotten certain ones. And I've forgotten certain items, so I just put them all in here ahead of time so you guys can see, and we're going to go along. With all that out of the way, hope you guys enjoy. Be sure to like this video and subscribe if you want more Pokemon videos, because I'm actually pretty decent at what I do, and I'm planning on making a lot of walkthrough videos and stuff like that in the future. So, starting with Z Crystals, SS tier. SS tier, basically an item that makes any Pokemon broken. Z Crystals are busted. Any Pokemon can hold them, first of all. That's really strong. Secondly, they're not very limited. You can basically get a free kill or a free setup with the Z Crystal. And there's a huge surprise factor because your Z Crystal could do anything. And it makes a lot of Pokemon in Sun and Moon viable. Komodo has pretty bad stats, but with its Z Crystal, it can boost all of its stats by 1. Which is really strong, and it makes it a very potent sweeper in the metagame. What I'm trying to say is that Z Crystals can make almost any Pokemon good, meaning it's SS tier. Now below it is S tier. Now these items make certain Pokemon really good, unlike Z Crystals, which make all Pokemon good. Obviously at the top we're going to have Mega Stones. They make very certain Pokemon. There's only a limited amount of Mega Pokemon. But they give Pokemon new abilities and boosted stats, and it's really strong. But let's say a Pidgey can't hold a Lucario Knight and Mega Evolve into Lucario. A Lucario has to hold its specific Mega Stone. And not all Pokemon have Mega Stones, therefore not all Pokemon get the broken benefit of Mega Stones, which is why they're not SS tier. And that's the theme for S tier. As you can see, we have the blue and red orb, only apply to Groudon and Kyogre, but when they have these items, they're very strong. The light ball for Pikachu, the plates for Arceus, turns Arceus into a specific type. It gives him a specific boosted move. And yeah, we have the Soldew for the Lottie twins. We have the orbs for the Pokemon Diamond and Pearl legendaries. We have the Thick Club, which is the only item that makes Alolan Marowak viable. Without it, it's not that good of a Pokemon, but with it, its attack is gigantic. I put the stick here because it makes Farfetch'd. It fits the theme, except Farfetch sucks, so the stick isn't that viable. And then we have the drives for Genesect, which change Genesect's move and are pretty good, but they only work for Genesect. Up next we have A tier. All of these items are basically on every team, and they're beneficial, but they have their drawbacks. However, unlike S tier, every Pokemon can use it as long as it fits that Pokemon's stats. I'll explain in a second. Choice Scarf, Choice Band, and Choice Specs all make it so you can only use one move when you switch in, which sounds like a huge drawback, and it is, but the boost it gives is ridiculous, with Choice Scarf being speed, Choice Band being physical attack, and Choice Specs being special attack. The boost you get from these items is ridiculous. If you're holding a Choice Scarf, you outspeed everything that's not a Choice Scarf user if you're kind of fast. You don't want to give a slow Pokemon a Choice Scarf because it's not going to get that much of a boost. You can't give like a Shuckle a Choice Scarf because it'll turn its 5 base speed to 10 base speed. But if you give a Garchomp a Choice Scarf, it's now outspeeding Greninja, it's outspeeding Tornadus, it's outspeeding almost anything with a Scarf. that's not another faster Pokemon with the Scarf. If you're giving a Pokemon a Choice Band, you can give an already fast Pokemon a hard-hitting move, or a Choice Specs can give an already fast Pokemon a hard-hitting move. Good example of a Choice Specs user is Ash Greninja. Ash Greninja already has monstrous speed and monstrous special attack, but if you give it a Choice Specs, it's already over. It's just going to kill everything with Dark Pulse. Once you get rid of its checks, it's just going to clean through teams, and thanks to it being a Choice Specs user, it can do extra damage that it wouldn't normally do. The only problem is, someone with a Choice Scarf can come along and outspeed that Greninja and kill it. So, basically what these are for sweepers that aren't set up. They're just cleaners that come in, revenge killers, Pokemon that hit really hard but they don't need time to set up. Up next is Leftovers, heals 1/8 of your health per turn, really good on almost any tanky Pokemon. You see, it's basically on every team. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's just a free healing move, it's very consistent, and it doesn't really have any drawbacks. It's just a beneficial move. And the next one is going to be Life Orb. Life Orb is similar to these choice moves. However, Life Orb could be seen as better because it boosts your moves by a certain amount, and it doesn't boost speed, so it's not better than Choice Scarf. But it boosts your attacks by a certain amount, and the drawback is that it takes, I believe, 1/8 of your HP every turn. So it's the opposite of Leftovers. But here's the kicker. If you can manage to use the Life Orb to your advantage and take out your opponent's Pokemon, your opponent only has 6 Pokemon, you will destroy your opponent's entire team before you die to Life Orb, meaning that it's still really strong and can still do a lot of work for you. A lot of people will do Life Orb. Greninja, a lot of faster Pokemon will use Life Orb. It's not as used as the choice items because there's less of a downside, but if you can pull this item off, I guarantee you it's a very, very good item. And I'm missing the item. I think this is it. No, I think this is the Expert Belt. I'm missing the item, but Focus Sash should be here. So I'm going to edit it into the video so you can see what a Focus Sash does. I don't know why it's not in this. I put it in here. Is it this? It's not with these. This is the Focus Band and Muscle Band. I don't know where the Focus Sash went. Anyways, Focus Sash should be an A tier. Focus Sash lets you live any move with 1 HP. The only reason it's not as good as these items is because you have to be at full HP to use it, and it only works once. But if you can send it in on a field with no hazards, then you basically get 2 free turns to do what you want, which can be huge. You can send in a Pokemon with Focus Sash and use Dragon Dance. They take a super effective move, they live it, and then they sweep for the rest of the game at 1 HP. And usually they have healing moves too to get their health back. It's really good. You just have to play your cards right with it. It can always be beneficial. It's used on a lot of teams too. It should be on my list. I don't know why it didn't transfer over. That's really weird. But imagine Focus Sash in A tier. Use your imagination, just pretend it's here, and we're going to move on. Up next we have B tier. We start with the White Herb. What it does is it lets you regain lost stats. So for example, if you're using Shell Smash, you lose your defensive stats, but you gain a +2 in attack, special attack, and speed. With the White Herb, it's a one-time use item. You can get those defenses back, and you won't have the liability of losing defenses. Also good with Draco Meteor, which cuts your special attack in half when you use it, because then you can immediately consume it and get your special attack back for another full power Draco Meteor. Next we have Weakness Policy. What it does is it gives you a +2 in special attack and attack if you're hit by a super effective move. So if you have a Pokemon that's strong enough to take said super effective move, you go ahead and live it, you get a boost, you can raise your speed in that same turn, and you sweep because you just doubled your attack or special attack, and it's kind of ridiculous. Rocky Helmet and Assault Vest and Eviolite are all defensive items, which I'm going to explain. Rocky Helmet's good for physically defensive Pokemon because what it does is it damages your opponent every time they hit you with a physical move. So this can be stacked with Iron Barbs and Rough Skin. So if a Pokemon is attacking Ferrothorn, which is the biggest defender, they take a bunch of damage just from hitting you, which is really good because it can stack. And they won't want to physically attack you, so it's going to put you in advantage state pretty easily in the match. Assault Vest is good because it boosts your special defense, but the drawback is you can only use attacking moves. This is mainly good on Pokemon like Tornadus, T, and Magearna. You can run a set where you don't have any non-attacking moves. You could just all-out attack. You take hits. You're super tanky when you use Assault Vest. It's really good. Eviolite is great for non-fully evolved Pokemon. It's mostly seen on Chansey, and it makes Chansey so strong. It makes Chansey ridiculous, but it can also make other Pokemon good, like Tangela, what's Type Null. It can make Type Null good. And a lot of lower tier Pokemon also use this item because their fully evolved Pokemon are in higher tiers. So in lower tiers, Eviolite is super good. What it does is it boosts both of your defenses if you're not fully evolved. Really strong, and it's really good in lower tiers. It also sees use in OU sometimes with Chansey and Tangela and other Pokemon, so it can be really good. Up next are the Pinch Berries. What they do is if you're below a third of your HP, you get a bunch of your health back and then it's consumed. Citrus Berry used to be the go-to for this, but now the Pinch Berries are so much stronger. I only have the Iapapa Berry up here, but there's plenty of them. They all depend on your nature. You have to choose based on your nature, but they all count as this category. Next is the Mental Herb, which basically lets you... The Mental Herb mainly lets you avoid taunts. That's right. It's really good on Shuckle because you're guaranteed to get your hazards up if they taunt you. I believe it has a secondary effect though. Let me check it up. Yeah, it also gets rid of Infatuation, Cursed Body, or Torment. Any of those moves that would make it so you can't use a move you want to use. It's like, nah fam, I got you. And you eat the little herb thingy and you can use that move. Up next is the Expert Belt. It gives you a boost on all super effective moves. It basically puts you in a position where you can KO Pokemon you wouldn't normally KO. Let's say you have a Greninja and you use Scald, which I believe normally wouldn't KO a Heatran if it's not specially attacked. I don't know. But let's say you don't kill a Heatran normally with Scald. You have the Expert Belt, you get a tiny boost and it will kill, which is super useful. It can put you in a little bit of higher ranges, and it doesn't have the drawback of you being stuck into that move like the choice items do. It just has to be a super effective hit in order to work. And most of the time you're going for super effective moves in Pokemon, so hey, it can be pretty good. Up next we have the Metronome, which didn't used to be seen as a really good item, but I know a lot of top players are using it now, myself included. What it does is every turn you use a move in succession, it gets a boost. So let's say you use Thunderbolt one turn, it does 90 power. Next turn, it'll do slightly more. The turn after that, it'll do slightly more. If you're fighting a Pokemon 1v1 and using the same move over and it's just not doing enough power, with the Metronome, you can slowly overpower them. And it's good in 1v1 situations where you wouldn't normally kill. Like the previously mentioned Chansey, sometimes you just don't do enough and it heals off the damage you're doing to it. So you're stuck in a stalemate where you're stuck and you can't kill it. With the Metronome, your moves will slowly gain more power and you will be able to kill it over time. This is a very niche item, but I feel like it's deserving of B tier because it actually has a really good effect that a lot of people don't use. And I really wanted to shout this item out because a lot of people don't use it, and I think it's way better than people think. And the last B tier item is going to be the Shed Shell. Basically, it lets you escape if you're trapped. For example, someone sends in a Dugtrio, which is banned from OU, by the way. But someone sends in a Dugtrio and you're trapped. If you have the Shed Shell, you can switch out. It's mainly used on steel types such as Skarmory and Fortress, because if your opponent sends in a Magnezone, you're trapped because it has the Steel Pull ability and it keeps you stuck if you're a steel type. However, if you have this item, you can switch out regardless of ability or trapping moves. So it's pretty useful. I know this video is really long, but we've officially reached about the halfway point, so be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Alright, so up next we have the Air Balloon. Basically gives you temporary levitate, making you immune to ground type moves. This can be really good on Pokemon that have a weakness to ground. The only problem is the balloon pops after you were hit by a attacking move, so therefore you want to avoid being hit. You can use it to switch in on choice to ground type Pokemon that are using Earthquake. It's mainly used on Heatran because Heatran has a 4 times weakness to ground, but it's not really seen anymore because a lot of these items up here are way better, but it's still a good item and it can provide a pretty good resistance to a Pokemon you'd normally be weak to. Up next we have the Terrain Seeds. This is not mainly used for the item's effect, but the Pokemon using it. Let me explain. This is really good on Pokemon with Unburden, because how Unburden works is your speed is doubled if you consume an item. These items are immediately consumed when you switch into the specific terrain, either grassy terrain, electric terrain, misty terrain, or psychic terrain. So, if you send in a Hawlucha holding an electric seed into electric terrain, it immediately doubles its speed, and it gets the stat boost, which can sometimes be nice. So that's why these items are seen in C tier. They're pretty good. Next we have the Lumberry and the Chesto Berry. They go together because they both heal status, however they do it in a different way. Lumberry heals all status. Chesto Berry heals specifically sleep. Chesto Berry goes specifically with the move Rest. You've probably heard of the strategy Resto Chesto before. It's used over the Lumberry in that strategy because you don't want to be hit by a different move, and then the Lumberry pop, and then you're not able to use it with Rest, which is why Chesto Berry is specifically used with Rest. Lumberry is used for all other status. The Slack Berry boosts your speed by 1 stage if you are below 1/4 HP. This can be good for Pokemon with the Sturdy ability, Sturdy Slack. It's really good. You can use it. What you can do is you can use a Swords Dance. They hit you with a super effective move. You get your Sturdy Pops and you survive with 1 HP. You get a +1 speed boost, and you've basically just done a move that's stronger than Dragon Dance, and you can sweep. It used to be used back in the day with Substitute. It was called Sub Slack. And you could use it with Focus Punch, Substitute, and then you could sweep after you've lost your HP. It's a pretty good berry, but it's not the best, which is why it's in C tier. Similarly, the Custap Berry is in C tier. What it does is, if you're below 1/4 HP, you get to go first next turn guaranteed. This is good with hazard setters, such as Fortress, Shuckle, or other Pokemon with Sturdy. So you can use Stealth Rocks, they hit you, you get below 1 HP, you get to hit them next turn guaranteed because you will always move first. It's good because you can also use Explosion to take out said Pokemon, keeping your hazards on the field. Up next, we have the extender items, such as Light Clay. We're going to start with Light Clay. Light Clay lets you extend Reflect and Light Screen, and I'm going to say, what's it called? Aurora? It's whatever Alolan Ninetales' signature move is. It can only be used in Hail, but it's basically both of those moves in one. I can't remember what it's called. Anyways, it extends those from 5 turns to 8 turns, which is very strong because you will keep those boosted defenses on your team for even longer. However, they can also be defogged away whenever, and defog's a strong move, which is why this is not all the way up in A or B. It's in C. This is the Damp Rock, the Heat Rock, the Smooth Rock, and the Icy Rock. What they do is they extend Rain, Sun, Sand, and Hail from 5 turns to 8 turns. The most used one is the Damp Rock because Rain is really strong in OU right now, but I bunched them all together because they do the same thing. And then lastly, we have the King's Rock, which gives you an increased flinch chance. It used to be really broken with Pokemon such as Jirachi and Togekiss, but they're not used as much anymore. But it couples well with moves that have a good chance to. You can just sometimes cheese wins off of flinching. King's Rock is decent because of that. I actually think it might have had its effect changed. I'm not sure, but we're going to put it in C tier. Up next is D tier. We have berries such as the Culber Berry, which reduces the power of a super effective hit. The Culber Berry and the Shucka Berry are the 2 most used because Earthquake and Knockoff are 2 of the most common offensive moves. They let you take a super effective Knockoff or Earthquake and usually survive it because it cuts that attack in half. It's a one-time use item, but it lets you switch in on Pokemon. It's pretty useful, and it can be very effective at what it does. It's just not as good as other items up higher on the list. Next we have Black Sludge. Black Sludge is so low because it only works on Poison-type Pokemon. It's only beneficial if it's used on Poison-type Pokemon. It's basically a Leftovers, except stronger if used on Poison-type Pokemon. It can't be used on other Pokemon. It will reduce their health instead of heal them, which is terrible. But in the right hands and the right Pokemon, it can be very strong. The Bright Powder is next, and it reduces accuracy by a little bit, which can be really strong because your Fire Blasts or your Thunders or your Blizzards already have bad accuracy, but now they have even worse accuracy if you're trying to hit a Pokemon with Bright Powder. The thing is, it's very cheeky, it's very cheesy, and it doesn't work every game. Pokemon's very luck based. This slightly boosts your luck, but why would you boost your luck when you could boost a move permanently that doesn't rely on luck? which is why Bright Powder is in D tier. Along with Black Sludge, we have 2 more items that only are beneficial to certain Pokemon, and they hurt others. We have the Toxic Orb and Flame Orb. Toxic Orb is mainly used by Breloom and Gliscor because they have the Poison Heal ability. So instead of getting poisoned and losing HP, they get poisoned and gain HP, and it's actually stronger than Black Sludge and Leftovers, and you can't be status by sleep or anything else, which it's very good on specific Pokemon. It's not good on everything else because they lose HP instead of gaining HP. It's also good on Zangoose because Zangoose has the Toxic Boost ability. If it's poisoned, its speed is boosted, and it can use Facade, and it's ridiculous. Anyways, we also have the Flame Orb, which is similar to the Toxic Orb. It burns you. It's good on Pokemon with the Guts ability because instead of lowering their attack, it will boost their attack, and they can hit a lot harder. We have the Scope Lens, which boosts your critical hit ratio by 1. This can be coupled with the Sniper ability, which boosts your critical hit ratio even more, basically guaranteeing you crits, which can be a little ridiculous. Critical hits are great because they go through defense boosts and have a 1.5 boost. And with this item, you can pull off some cheesy strategy where you will always crit, and the other Pokemon just can't survive. Up next, we have the Arceus Plates, which is weird because Arceus Plate is also S tier. Arceus Plate is only S tier when it's on Arceus. If it's not on Arceus, it's just a boost to a specific type. For example, the Meadow Plate is a slight boost to grass type moves along with the Splash Plate, and then the Nevermelt Ice, Magnet, and Twisted Spoons are examples of very similar items that give a slight boost to specific types. There's a plate for every type, and there's one of these items for every type. I'm not going to put every single one because there's like 17 types or something like that, and I'm not going to take up this entire list with those, but you get the idea. Slight, specific type boosting items go in D tier. They're used in almost every metagame, so OU, UU, NU, all of the tiers. They're just not as strong as like Choice Band, Choice Specs, Choice Scarf. They don't give as much of a benefit, but they're good. If you can't find an item for a Pokemon and they're not a tank and you don't need to give them Leftovers or one of these, you can give them one of these and they will do a little bit more damage, which can put them in a little bit higher range for certain KOs, which can be beneficial. Berry Juice is also D tier. Reason why it's D tier and not F tier is because it's really good in LC, which is Little Cup, and it's also really good on Pokemon such as, what is it? I believe it's Magnemite, which you have him at level 1, and he can do some cheesy stuff with the Berry Juice to kill any Pokemon. Other than that, though, it's useless because it only heals a certain amount of HP. I think it's 20 or 10 HP, I don't know. I think it's 20. But it's useless on any Pokemon that's not level 1 or in Little Cup, which is why it is in D tier. Up next is the Safety Goggles, which makes you immune to weather effects, and it also makes you immune to Spore and Powder moves, which can be good. It's used on Shedinja because Shedinja dies to Sandstorm and Hail, and it can also be used on certain Pokemon so they can't get spored, which Spore is a 100% sleep move, and being immune to that move is super good, but it's not the best. It's just outclassed by other items that are stronger than it, but it doesn't have any really large drawbacks. So if you have a team that has a weakness to Spore and you want something to just absorb it, you can give them the Safety Goggles. And if you want to be immune to weather, hey, you can give them the Safety Goggles. Next, we have the Terrain Extender. Terrain Extender goes kind of with the seeds. What it lets you do is it's similar to these weather boosting moves, except it works for grassy terrain, electric terrain, misty terrain, and psychic terrain. It makes it from 5 turns to 8 turns, which can give you a good benefit. It's just not seen as much as the weather boosts. I don't know why it's not seen as much. It's strong, but it's just not as strong. There's just no major strategy that goes with it right now. So yeah, we're just going to exclude this item from B tier and A tier. It could be really strong, it could be C tier, but for now we're going to do it in D tier because no one uses it. And it's not like Metronome where people should be using it because there's no like real great strategy besides Tapu Lele being able to hit really hard for 8 turns instead of 5. But I don't know, man, it's just not as strong as it could be. And it could be better. It could have some potential strategy that we just don't know of, but for now it's just D tier. Next we have the eject button and red card. I get these confused all the time. Eject button, if you're hit by a super effective move, you get to switch out. And red card, if your opponent hits you with a super effective move, they have to switch out. They're good, except you preferably don't want to be getting hit by super effective moves, and they're just not as good as other items. This is the Citrus Berry. Citrus Berry heals 20% of your HP or something like that, which is good. It's just not as good as the Pinch Berries, but I believe the Citrus Berry activates after being below half, which can be beneficial because the Pinch Berries activate when you're below 1/3, so it can be beneficial there. The Protective Pads. This is a weird item that I bet none of you have heard of, and this is where the items get really niche, and I'm going to have to look up all of them, but I remember what this one does. If your opponent has Iron Barbs or Rough Skin, you can physically attack them while holding the Protective Pads, and it keeps you from taking damage from said abilities. So, I mean, it's kind of good. It's great against Ferrothorn, I guess, but I don't know. It's just not as good as other items, so it's a D tier. Next, we have E tier. E tier is where the items start to get really bad. I forget what most of these do, but hey, we're going to figure it out. I can just look them up. Most of these are very niche items that don't really do much or are outclassed by other items in the metagame, as you will see by a lot of these. So starting off is the Shell Bell, not to be confused with the Shed Shell. I used to confuse them as a kid. The Shell Bell is basically, it lets you heal 1/8 of the damage you're doing. Why would you use this if you could just use Leftovers, which is guaranteed 1/8? If you only do half damage to your opponent, half of their full HP, you only heal 1/16 of your health. It's not very good. It's good in game because you get it early in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, but it's not good in competitive. No one should use this item over Leftovers, but it still is beneficial. It's not a negative item. It's not a negative item. Keep that in mind. It still has a benefit. It's just not that good. Up next is the Grip Claw, and what it does is it lets you use binding moves for 7 turns instead of 5. So like Fire Spin, Wrap, Constrict. I don't know. Like, it's not very good, but it has its niche. Bind is obviously a move that you can use, but it's not very good. But it's okay. It's not a drawback. It's just not very strong. Up next we have the Absorb Bulb, which lets you take a water type move and it boosts your special attack. The only problem is it doesn't prevent the water type move from hitting you, and it only boosts your special attack by 1 stage. Just not very strong. It could be better. It's not that good. Most of these items have a benefit, but they're just not that good. Now, the Adrenaline Orb is a weird one. It could actually be potentially decent, but it's not that good yet. It hasn't been used effectively, but I think people could make it work in the OU tier. And the reason why I say that is because if a Pokemon switches in on you and it has the Intimidate ability, the Adrenaline Orb lets you boost your speed by 1 stage. And Intimidate, Landorus is everywhere in the OU tier. So that Landorus may be switching in thinking it can outspeed you, but with the Adrenaline Orb you can outspeed it and probably kill it with an Ice Beam or a Water type move. Other than that though, very situational item, not that good. Why would you use this when you could just use a Choice Scarf and always outspeed Landorus? And it's consumed. So it's not that good. Up next we have the Luminous Moss, which is interesting. It's very similar to the Absorb Bulb, but instead of boosting a attacking stat, it boosts your special defense. So it lets you take water type moves better? No, it doesn't. It just eats a water type move, and then you get a special defense boost. It doesn't prevent that water type move. It just boosts your special defense if hit by one of the 17 types in the game. I guess you could use it in doubles with Surf, same with the Absorb Bulb, but why would you do that when you could just use a better item? That's basically what this entire tier is. Why would you use anything in E tier when you could just use something better than it? Big Root gives a boost to draining moves like Giga Drain, Mega Drain, Absorb. You know, it's okay. It's just not that good. Next is the Cell Battery, which boosts your attack if you're hit by an electric type move. Very similar to the other items in this tier, just not very good. Could be better. You get the picture. Up next is the Wise Glasses, which gives a teeny tiny baby boost to special attacking moves. However, unlike the Choice Specs, which gives you a massive boost to your special attacking moves, it does not limit you to using one move. So, can this item be good? Yeah. But just like the rest of the items in the E tier, Why would you use these when you could use something better? Quick Claw. This is a very interesting item because a lot of people think this item is good, especially really new players. They're like, oh yeah, dude, I'm going to put the Quick Claw on this Pokemon and it's going to outspeed everything. Quick Claw has a, I think it's 1 in 4 chance to randomly outspeed another Pokemon, which is okay, and it's really good in game. It's one of the best in-game items you can use. But it's so luck-based that why would you use this when you could use Choice Scarf and outspeed 100% of the time? Outspeed 25% of the time, outspeed 100% of the time. Get what I'm saying? It's following a very common theme. I get confused by these two items right here. This is the Focus Band. The Focus Band is similar to Focus Sash. However, it only works 10% of the time. That's not very good. That's not very good at all. But there's one benefit to using the Focus Band over the Focus Sash, and that's it can be used over and over. So, if you get knocked down to 1 HP with the Focus Band, you can survive another hit. You have a 10% chance of surviving another hit. It's just very unlikely. So, I mean, why would you use a luck-based move when you could use a guaranteed Focus Sash? That's an A tier. Like, you guys get it by now. And then I believe this, I don't remember what this item is called. It's like Biting Band or something lame like that. I'd never use it. Similar to the Wise Glasses, it's a very teeny tiny boost to physical moves, but you're not locked into a move. And then we have the Razor Claw and Razor Fang, I think. I don't remember exactly what they do. They used to evolve Gliscor and Weavile, but I think they both raise critical hit ratio and accuracy a tiny amount. They're not very good. And then we have the Zoom Lens, which increases accuracy. Then the Snowball, which I'm going to look up what the Snowball does because it's useless. The Snowball is very similar to these weird absorb items up here. If you're hit by an ice type move, your attack is raised by 1 stage. Not very good. We're moving on. And in F tier, we have the worst of the worst items that you can use because there's almost no benefit to using them. There's very, very, very few situations where these items will actually benefit you. Starting off with the Lagging Tail and Full Incense. They always make you go last. Why would you ever want to go last? I'll tell you why. There's a few situations where it's good. Using the move Revenge. That makes sense. Okay, you do more damage by going second. Avalanche is a good example. So if you're already slow and you know you're going to go second, you can use it to always go. I don't know. It's only really used with Fling because you throw it at your opponent, I think, and it makes them go slow. Pretty terrible. But lastly, we have Sticky Barb. Sticky Barb always, now let me tell you, always. It's not like Black Sludge where poison types get a benefit, or these two items where certain Pokemon get a benefit. No. It's always the opposite of Leftovers. It always does 1/8 damage per you per turn. Only possible benefit that this item has is that another Pokemon can come into contact with you and has a chance of picking it up off of you if they don't already have an item. Which almost every Pokemon has an item in competitive. So it's a very useless item. Hope you guys enjoyed this tier list. If you did, be sure to hit that like button. I hope I did a good job explaining everything, and I know this video was long, but you guys get the idea. Have a good one. Peace out.